Hello, I'm Sinta Ebersohn of Get Up and Grow. And today we are talking to Elana Swart-Traut. We're going to have a very interesting conversation in lieu of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is October. Elana, thank you so much for agreeing to have this conversation with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It is quite an interesting journey that I've had, so I'm happy to share.
We're very grateful. Thank you. So let's just jump right in. I mentioned it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but you have a slightly different story to tell us, and I'm very excited to hear what happened to you. So please share with us.
Okay. Well, Breast Cancer Awareness Month is close to my heart, as it is, because my mom passed away from breast cancer in 2003.
Sure,
But in
I'm so
2000,
sorry.
yes, no, thank you. In 2012, I thought I would treat myself to a mommy makeover, which involved a tummy tuck after cesareans and breast implants. The breast implants, because of my mom's history, the breast implants weren't on my radar. I wasn't interested in breast implants, but the plastic surgeon that I had, I don't want to say convinced me, but he told such a beautiful story about what you would look like afterwards, and that the breast would be the only part that really wouldn't fit the picture after he was done. And he then proceeded to show me the actual implants. He had implants in his rooms, and I could touch them and examine them, which I did. And I said to him, "That's fine. You can implant the smallest that you have." I am not one of those ladies that like to be well endowed, and we then agreed that it will be his smallest implant. That was May 2012. In about December 2019, I didn't really feel that great, but I also didn't know why. I started to get shortness of breath and that kind of thing. I didn't really know why. And in March, we went into lockdown. And when we were in lockdown, I noticed that my left breast was swelling and then decreasing and swelling and decreasing. And when it was doing that, it would also then have a bit of warmth to it. It would be warmer. It's nearly like a fever. So I then, so this is April, so we're in hard lockdown. So we come out of hard lockdown in May, and I make an appointment with my doctor. His conclusion was that I possibly had an abscess. He gave me a course of antibiotic. It was like early May 2020, and a few weeks later, it started flaring up again. So we're not talking early June. I go back to him. We do another course of antibiotic. And then I was going to my gynae for my annual checkup when she looked at my breasts and she said to me, "Oh, when did this get done?" And I said to her, "No, I've had them since 2012. I mean, I've been going to her for 20 years. I said, "No, I've had them done in 2012. And she looked a bit puzzled, but she didn't say much. And then I thought, that was a weird reaction. Let me go to the breast clinic. I've been going to the breast clinic since 2005, Professor Appleton's clinic, and let me go to the breast clinic and for my annual checkup, because I have the one and then I have the other. So I went. They were a bit concerned because the day that I went, the breast had presented with a slight red mark at the top. And if you look on the medical files, that is when you have an inflammatory breast cancer. Oh. It makes it's a half moon that it makes above the breast. And inflammatory breast cancer is also very rare. So I then had to have 2 biopsies as I was sitting on the table because they were really concerned. But the biopsies came back negative. For me, part of the problem was the fact that after the biopsy, so I've had biopsies before for cysts and that kind of thing on the breast tissue, but after the biopsy, the breast turned black. So that was a concern to me. They came back with the results of the biopsy, and they said to me that the biopsy is negative, but I need to get to my surgeon because they are suspecting that the breast implant is leaking. And this is where my biggest issue started. So I managed. So now, don't forget, we're still in lockdown. Then we're in lockdown, we're out of lockdown. Then we're in hard lockdown. Then we're in, okay. So levels were changing all the time. Then you could have a doctor's appointment. Then you could only be emergency and that kind of thing. So it was 3 weeks later that I got a surgical appointment with the surgeon that inserted the breast implant. And he examined and he said to me, now he's quite convinced that the breast implant is leaking. And I said to him, okay. And he gave me a quote to repair it. Well, he was going to send me a quote. I said, that's fine. So now this was an elective surgery. It was an elective surgery, which meant there was no grave danger to my life. We would be doing this because I'm electing for it. So we had to decide on the timeline for this. So I asked him, how long can I walk with leaking silicone? And his words were, you can walk, we implant silicone for various things, butt implants, hip implants, knee replacements, whatever. You can walk with silicone in your body for a very long time. So, okay, I felt quite assured and reassured. Then, I don't know, something happened to my health. I was very tired. I wasn't feeling well. It felt like I had like the flu. I had sore muscles and that kind of thing. And I then made an urgent appointment to see my surgeon because something was wrong. Something really, really was wrong. And that was about the beginning of October. So then when I did end up at the surgeon, well, the day I was due to see my surgeon, he contracted COVID. And that was absolutely such a bad experience. So I ended up with another surgeon who examined me. She then informed me that it's quite all right. She will remove the implant the very next day. That evening, she phoned to tell me that she had COVID. So it was just a mess. Goodness. So and that happened during that time. So then what happened was I ended up in surgery on the Wednesday with an absolute stranger I'd never met before. And he assured me that this is a very run-of-the-mill operation. It takes 45 minutes and I will be home that evening. By the time I woke up, it was nearly 5 o'clock in the afternoon. There was no way I was going home. So I don't know why I had a much longer surgery. And also the porter that brought me back to the room gave me my implant. Now, before I went into surgery, he asked me if I wanted to keep my implant. I said, no, the thing is ruptured. I don't want it. So when I got into the ward, they gave me the implant. And the surgeon came past and he said to me, there's your implant. You may want to keep it. I didn't think anything of it. I was just a bit irritated. Why would you give it to me? Anyway, he never inserted a new implant. So our agreement was that they would take out the old ruptured implant and insert a new implant. So he said to me, I haven't done that. And I need to see you on Friday for a wound check. This was the Wednesday. I was discharged the next day. And when I went for the wound check, he said to me, till that point, I didn't know anything was wrong. And he said to me, this is what happened during your surgery. So I had necrosis through about 11 layers of muscle and tissue all the way to my breastbone. And the necrosis was as a result of the breast implant, which had caused lymphoma. And I had tripped up the stairs in the December and that ruptured the capsule around the breast implant. And that allowed for the lymphoma liquid to leak into my muscle and tissue, which then caused necrosis. And at that stage, they didn't know how bad it was. We then went through quite a bit of histology and analysis, and everybody in the medical field working with cancer in Cape Town were quite astonished, because none of them, they've given lectures on what does breast implant cancer look like, but none of them have ever had a living patient with breast implant cancer. So they haven't treated it. They didn't know what to expect, and that was it was unfamiliar territory for them, and it was terrifying for me, absolutely terrifying. So as soon as the surgeon told me on the Friday that he's suspecting BIALCL, breast implant associated large cell lymphoma, I then phoned the professor that I've been going to for 15 years, for 15 years, to inform him that they're telling me I've got some sort of a cancer. And this is 2 months after I had been for the biopsy. So he then arranged for me to come in on the Monday morning, informed me that we've never had a case of breast implant cancer in our country. This is the rarest form of cancer that you can find. And he needed to see the slide of my histology and the samples that they've taken from the breast. He sent it to, I think it was 2 or 3 pathologists to have it verified, and it was a couple of days later, about 3 days later, he phoned me to inform me that I'm a rare bird. I do indeed have the very rare form of breast implant associated lymphoma, large cell lymphoma. So that, you're sitting in a space where, I think this will beautifully connect with what you're doing. You're sitting in a space where you have no one to rely on. Every medical person that you are talking to have never seen this. They've never treated this. And what do you do now? It's like you fell off a boat in the middle of the ocean and you are just floating. You don't know what you need to do. It was I think it took about 2 or 3 weeks for me to gather my own information. I was very much led by my instinct. I would sit in a space of complete overwhelm and not know what to do, and just go within and be led by my instinct. And it led me from this space in Cape Town to a group in America that have been treating a small number of women worldwide. There are about 950 of us worldwide that have been diagnosed with this cancer. And it led me to that group that then led me to surgeons who are working directly with this group, that then led me to their expertise and their knowledge. And I was just very grateful for that, because they then put me into contact with a past president of the Plastic Surgeons Association, who I could then have a conversation with. It was very late at night when he eventually found me. I could have a conversation with and just get a little bit of direction which way to go, because a surgeon's immediate instinct is to remove what is the problem. And to think and remember, I had 1 implant removed and 1 implant stayed behind. So the problem was on the left side. They didn't touch the right side. So if you've got, so if you get large cell lymphoma via the breast implant, it's not necessarily that both breasts will have it. It is contained in a capsule. So the one capsule will have it. It doesn't guarantee that the other one will have it. And it's a very rare occasion when they have bilateral BIALCL. Luckily for
Elana,
me, I didn't.
sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to ask you, through this whole process, did you have both breasts checked and examined and tested, and or not?
Once I got, how do you mean through the process?
Once you started having tests done, or, you got the biopsy and then all the
No,
histology.
the only worked with the one breast,
Okay.
the one that was presenting.
Okay.
To test for BIA-ALCL, they need to do an aspiration of the liquid inside the capsule.
Sure.
So for me, when they remove the capsule, so your breast implant is there and it makes a capsule around it. Your own body makes a capsule around it.
Mm-hmm.
In that capsule is the liquid that they then test to see if it is,
Okay.
yeah, BIA-ALCL. So for myself, they didn't need to do a aspiration on the right side because they found the problem on the left side.
Okay.
So once he directed me and I got a bit of information, the next step was not surgery. The next step was a PET scan to see where it has spread into my body, because
Yes.
it wasn't an aggressive cancer. Cancers are usually they usually have a 30 to 40% reproduction. Cancer cells have a 30 to 40% reproduction when you look at them under the microscope. This cancer was reproducing at a rate of 80 to 90%.
Yeah. Wow.
It was aggressive. It was so aggressive. So I was operated on the 5th of October. I started chemo on the 20th of November. Of course, there's a period of denial. I don't have this, whatever. And once I got past that, I could then get the information that I needed, be directed to doctors that could help me. I ended up being treated by hematologists because this is a lymphoma. And we went for a very aggressive chemotherapy regime. And I had 6 cycles of that every 21 days. And once we finished with that, I did a PET scan in the middle of the cycle. So in about February, I did a PET scan. And at the end of the cycle, I did another PET scan. And the end cycle was that I was, the BIA-LCL has been diminished. And I could have the other implant removed. So lucky for me, I was able to do that as well. When that implant was removed, the beauty of my body was that it had made a double capsule. It absolutely went and didn't just put one layer over it, made a double capsule, protected me from whatever was going on in here. And the aspiration came through that there was no BIA-LCL in there. And that's just in essence, in a very short summary, what has happened. But I think for me, the scariest part of this journey was the fact that no one had ever treated this before. Look, it's something to hear that your name goes into the medical journals in records and something, but when that happens, that means that nobody knows what to do, and that's not a good thing. So
No.
for me, that was quite a harrowing experience. Not one I want to repeat, but it also showed me that we can't just trust our surgeons. Our surgeons are artists. They are there to make something beautiful. And at what price? At what price are we doing all of this? And I came very close to losing my life. The thing about this kind of cancer and the implant, so people will ask me, oh, did you have a silicone implant? So it's not filled with silicone. It's saline that it's filled with, but the outer part of the implant is made of silicone. So worldwide, these silicone implants or these implants have proven to be problematic worldwide. And if they're not giving you cancer, they are giving you some form of breast implant disease, which affects your body. So hair loss, low iron, tiredness, appetite issues, all of that. So it is really, it goes beyond just a breast implant cancer. But for me, the journey was a valuable journey. I can see how it's brought me a lot. And I think us as women, we need to just find a space and a place where we just accept who we are and find a way to enjoy life regardless of how we look, how we feel. Well, not really about how we feel, but how we look, because we need to be feeling good about ourselves instead of wanting to make ourselves look good.
Well, that's a very valuable comment that you made there, because there are so many expectations that we have of ourselves and that our societies have that lead to these sorts of things that can be avoided altogether if we don't go down that route. But it's a very difficult situation to be in. Elana, I want to just take a step back and go back to where you said you had no one to rely on. It must have been absolutely terrifying. And if I may share with you, I had thyroid cancer a few years ago, also a rare kind, but not that rare. So I was quite relieved that although it was a rare kind, there were enough cases in the world to have known certain facts about it. So I can just imagine what it must feel like to be in a country where everybody's telling you, we've never seen this before, we've never dealt with this, we've never treated it. It must have been absolutely terrifying.
I have no words to explain or describe that fear. Absolutely none. And you're sitting in front of a very, very intelligent doctor, and his go-to is a certain methodology. And I find a group of people that tell me that is exactly not what you need. We cannot let you do that. That does not cure BRALCL. And then they have a formulation of what cures BRALCL. And the special drug for this cancer is brentuximab. My doctor was still a bit dubious about that and didn't really want to trust that regime because he's never worked with it in this scenario, and he still went for CHOP and added brentuximab. So I had quite an aggressive treatment, but to be sitting there and you feel absolutely helpless. And when you are in that space, you know, a lot of people have a lot of opinions. Everybody is an expert, as you would know. Everybody's an expert about your body. Yes. And sitting in that space, I found my saving grace in going inward. What is my next step? And my next steps were revealed to me very, very early in the morning. Just as I was waking or just before I would wake up, I would then get the idea, the thought, the vision, what would be my next step? And it taught me to become quiet. I was always very busy, on the go, running, sorting things out, building businesses, and it taught me to become quiet. And that is the one thing I've taken from this journey, is that first thing in the morning, connection with myself. And this is a thing that happens as you are coming out of your sleep. That's for me the journey. So that's the one thing I've learned from this. And I'm sure you've had a similar experience with that as well.
Yes, I must say, I love what you said about trusting your instinct, because that is so valuable. And becoming quiet and just connecting with yourself deeply. And this for some people could be meditation or prayer or whatever works for different people. But that experience, or shall I call it a practice of doing that on a daily basis, is so valuable. Because like you mentioned earlier, you said that, of course, there was a time of denial. We go through lots of different phases. When the shock hits you, we go through denial and thinking, this can't be happening to me, this is not possible. And maybe get a second opinion or more tests, and then we hope, and then we start negotiating. It's similar, you know, to the grief stages and things. It is such a shock on your system. and it had such a huge impact on the people around you also. Maybe you can tell us a bit about that. How did you mentioned how you managed to cope for yourself, trusting your instinct and becoming silent and listening to the guidance that you got at the time. How did it affect the people around you?
Well, I'm raising two boys. Well, they are men already. And I think the first thing I had to deal with was being mad at myself. That because this was something I inflicted on myself. This is not where your body has just developed something. I've given myself implants. I put them there, and I gave it to myself. So that was a whole thing on its own that I had to deal with. That was quite a rough journey. And then when I looked around me and I just saw, I think it's so hard to verbalize it, but I think when you look into your children's eyes and you realize you've let them down, because I have a lineage of cancer. My mother, my brother, my grandfather, and this is such a lineage of cancer. And to bring them the one disease, I promised them I would never bring them. I would never do this to them. It was a rough journey with them, but I think knowing that I still had so much life to live and so much to give the world and so much that I wanted to experience, that when you dig into that, when you're anchored to that, and that holds you while you are going through this process, that's the one thing that really held me and propelled me through this. Because if you don't have that, and you don't have the support of your family, then why are you sticking around? What must help you to overcome this? So for me, it was hard to knowing that I've let them down. It was hard knowing that I've let myself down. And I just had absolute faith in myself and my doctor that we have the right recipe and we will fix this. I have no other choice but to fix it. So yeah, look, they were a bit upset with me. They raising boys, they felt a bit cheated to a degree, because I did this one thing that I said I'd never do. And yeah, but we've grown through that, and we have learned so much through that journey. So yeah, I can't remember much of the actual experience during chemo. There are key moments that I remember, but there's not a lot that I do remember. But I can remember that feeling the disappointment, and then I can't even say you bargain with yourself, because you don't. Well, I didn't. It's this resolute knowing that when this is over, life is going to be amazing. Yeah. So
it's interesting that you feel totally responsible for what happened. But in a way, you're not. It's a rare thing, and the chances of that happening is so slim that, yeah, it's not really all your fault, eh? But I understand what you're saying. You made it possible by
quite correct.
By opting for a choice, and that is as a parent and as a person with ourselves, but as a parent also very hard to deal with the choices and decisions that we make that affect our children. Incidentally, I also have two boys, and they were still teenagers when I had cancer, and I dealt with a lot of fear about what would happen to them if I were to die, because they were still young. And that was one of the worst things that I remember in that period of time.
Mm.
But also, what I find interesting, what you said, is I hear that, and I see the determination in you. And I felt the same thing. It resonates with me so much. I have to get over this. I have to deal with this and beat this and be healthy for the sake of my children and my family. Did you feel similar?
Completely. And you know, when you are in this space, you actually see how strong you are, how much you can handle. Whatever you thought could kill you, it can't. The chances are so slim, and you are so strong. If your mind is in it, if your psyche is in this game, nothing can hurt you. And that's the one thing that I learned through this experience, was my absolute strength, because I didn't have an idea of my absolute strength before this.
Yes.
And I own businesses, and I'm responsible for so many families. I mean, I'm responsible for about 48 families. And, you know, you are lying here with a very grave disease. I still went into the office. So if I had my chemo on a Friday, then I would go into the office maybe the Tuesday, the Wednesday, or the Thursday. And then for a couple of days, that day 10, 11, 12, when you can't move, I'm in bed, but I'm on my Skype, but I'm on my laptop. But I would still go in. And, you know, the way they would look at you, because you are also letting them down. You have now possibly put their employment at risk. And that was the responsibility was so great. And so a lot of things were happening for me all around me. And just getting to know who I am, and at the essence of all of this, beneath everything else, that was so valuable. That was actually so beautiful. And knowing my strength. And after that, not having any limits.
I love that absolute strength. That is so strong. You discover and uncover, actually, and tap into your absolute strength. I love that. That is beautiful.
Yes, no, it's an experience.
So, Elana, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm very grateful that you are so comfortable to talk about this. Can you tell us, how has your life changed? Were there any big drastic changes in your life or your outlook on life as a result of this experience?
Yes. Your life changed. Well, my life changed 180 degrees. Absolutely. I still own the businesses I had before, but my focus has changed, and I've actually become transformational coach as a result of this illness and this disease. And when you've overcome your worst fear, because chemo was my worst fear, chemo couldn't save my mother, and chemo didn't save my brother. So chemo was my worst fear. You couldn't get a bigger fear than that. I was so petrified of chemo that I made them give me an implant through which they could insert chemo before I had my first chemo. So I was absolutely petrified of it. So once you've come to face with your worst fear, and you've overcome that fear, your life is never the same again. Your focus changes. So if I have to tell you how it's changed, I've written a book since. I have become a transformational coach for other people. And it's just, you live a different life. I think it's really like life is busy, but it's like it's slowed down, and you're doing things from a different platform, and just a different way, completely. And the things that were important to you before are not important anymore. What's important is family, connection, quality time, being present. We live right next to the beach, and I will never forget lying on that bed, hearing the children on the beach, and I couldn't get out of bed. I am drugged. I've got chemo in my system. I can't hold on food, and it's the most beautiful, sunniest day you've seen, and I can't go to the beach. I just love walking. And just that realization that this is temporary and you'll get that again. And when you get it again, you don't let it go.
Mm.
You don't, there's no compromise. You live a different life. And that's what I suppose what people mean you live life to the fullest, because you take every opportunity. I take every opportunity, and I am far more present, doing things that I absolutely would never have done in my life before, and enjoying it, because that's what the life experience is about.
Yes. Yeah, it's like the level of appreciation and the gratitude just went exponentially higher
Yes.
for me as well. Elana, tell us about your book. I'd love to also maybe share a link with this video of where people can get it, but please tell us about it. If you have one close by, show us what it looks like.
Oh, I don't have one close by. I ran downstairs to come and do this podcast. My book is about, my book's called Let's Dance. It is available, should be available on Amazon from Thursday actually, but you can order from the letsdance.life website. And it's about the wounded inner child having an impact on our daily life. And that is the basis, I suppose, that allow people like women like myself to have surgeries that we don't need because we are not good enough. And the wounded inner child deals with the relationships, with emotions, and just generally what we do to ourselves as a result of having unresolved wounding from our childhood. And I wrote this, I qualified as a psychiatry facilitator, preferred psychiatry facilitator, a little while ago, and I've just seen the huge changes that it's brought to my life while I was going through chemo and afterwards. And I realized that the root of the issue was not being good enough, not being good enough for myself, not being good enough for the world. And that's what the book is about. We do stuff to ourselves that we would never imagine, only because of some childhood wounding, some past wounding that we've gotten in our early years. And yeah, that's what it's about. And it's giving you some tools on how to transpose this childhood wounding. And at the back of the book, there's a little cheat sheet. I called it a little cheat sheet that asks key questions on helping you to identify your childhood wounding. So for every type of personality there is a specific childhood wound. And I ask key questions around that to help you identify that, and then you can take the step to, once you know something, you can't unknow.
Yes.
So once you know what caused that particular glitch within you, I call it a glitch, then you go to work to fix it. Neglect and abandonment was my glitch, and if I was good enough, then I wouldn't have been neglected as a child or abandoned as a child. So hence the fact that I had the issue of not feeling good enough and wanting to change how I look. So in essence, that's what it's about.
Beautiful. I'm so glad you mentioned this, because I'm so passionate about trauma, and that's the core of the work that I do. And childhood trauma is where most of us get glitched already, and it just accumulates as we go on through life.
Yeah, no, it's a layer that builds onto a layer,
yes.
that builds onto a layer. Sorry to interrupt. And my work subsequent to cancer has been with trauma, because it's the layer on top of the layer. Yeah.
Yes. That's where my name comes from, get up and grow. When life knocks us down, we have to get up and grow. And it's like you said, you have to get to work to fix those glitches. If I may ask a personal question, and you're most welcome to say you'd rather not go there. Your body has obviously been through a lot with surgeries and tests and biopsies and things. How do you deal with that? Can you share a bit about that experience? Being a woman, I mean, our breasts mean something to us.
Well, I still have ample breasts. That's the weirdest thing. After the surgery, so when the surgeon, when I went for the mommy makeover, the surgeon said to me, I'm going to take away excess breast tissue. You have way too much, but I don't know how much I will leave you with. So, hello, breast. We don't have no breast. Hence the fact that I then became convinced to have the implants, because he wasn't sure how much I was going to be left with. By the time he had finished the surgery, I was a healthy 36C, which is more than most women, but that was what I was. And since then, I can tell you, I am still a 30. I think I'm a 34B or 36B, somewhere around there. So, which shows me that I never needed the implants to start with.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of body image, how I feel about body image, when I see myself naked all scarred in the mirror and whatnot, I think you're a beast, because look the journey you're an absolute animal. You saved me. I am in my body, because without a body, your soul has no place. And
Yes.
I need my body.
Yeah.
I need my body. And so I need this vehicle that I've chosen for this journey. And I am just in awe of its resilience and its ability to heal itself and just be there for me. And I'm so in tune with my body now that, and I understand it so much better. And that for me is beautiful. So when I check her out in the mirror, I think you did great. You're a good body. Thank you for you.
I love that. That is absolutely beautiful. What a beast. And yeah, it resonates with me so much. I'm so proud of my body too, and how much it has gotten me through, and put one foot in front of the other, no matter how hard things were and how tough things were. That's absolutely beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Now, our bodies are amazing. And if we can just take a step back and realize how amazing, we don't all have to go through cancer to realize how beautiful and amazing our bodies are. They are freaking amazing. And yet we can treat them so flippantly and with no discretion. No, they are amazing.
And it's so valuable what you said, especially in the context of the conversation that we are having, is that we can elect to do things to our bodies with the perception or the expectation that it's going to be better or more beautiful or more attractive, what all the reasons are for doing some of these things. And yet it's beautiful. And growing old gracefully is also something that we can aspire to, hey?
Of course, we have to. We cannot jump that step in life. We cannot avoid it. That is cheating what you're here to do, and it's never going to happen. So you just have to get through it in the most beautiful way you can.
Yes. What a beautiful story. Elana, thank you so much. I'm very grateful for you having shared this. I wish you all the best and health for the rest of the journey. And I'm hoping that I can maybe check in with you in a few years' time and see what has happened since then.
Big pleasure.
I'll share the link to your book in the comments wherever we post this video. But thank you so much. Much gratitude to you.
Thank you for you, and thank you for the opportunity and this platform you've created. We need it, and thank you for allowing me to share my story.
Wonderful.